We're coming out of a very special week, the week of Parashat Beshalach, and the week of Yud Shvat, Yud Aleph, where the passing of the Rebbe Rayatz, the previous Rebbe of Chabad, and the acceptance of the leadership of being a Rebbe of our Lubavitch Rebbe. We also came out this week, the previous week that we just came out of. Wednesday of that week was the date that we read in our Torah about the Kriyat Yamsuf. So it's a very special connection, special time, and Rav Ginsburg was. We were lucky enough to have a very big Fabregan where we sat together and heard some beautiful things about the connection, about what we need to do. And we'll probably talk about it more next week when the wonders of next week will come. But for this week, we'll speak about Parashat Beshalach. Beshalach is when we were sent, when Pharaoh sent us from Egypt, we went to the desert, and in the desert we had the splitting of the sea and accepting of the Torah. So, and we always know that the thing we should always remember is how we got out of Egypt. We broke the chains and got out of Egypt. But very interesting, the Elimelech says something that at first glance I couldn't believe it. But he says something very interesting that has an amazing outcome. He said that the reason why we didn't go the short way, meaning if we look at the map, I remember when I was little, and I figured out that the walk between Egypt and the land of Israel is only a couple days walk, and I've learned that they walked for 40 years. What did they do? Well, what happened? I really remember that it hit me that it's so close. So when we read this week's parsha, we see that Hashem did not want them to go through the short way because they were not able to. They were not on a level that allowed them to fight the Plishtim that were there. The Plishtim were a special enemy of ours. We know that innerly and in general, what the Plishtim were good at, they were good at making fun of things, at making everything a joke, and they were able to get around our defenses. They could have been able to get around our defenses and hit us. And what Hashem wanted us to get stronger, so He took us around. But the Elimelech says very interestingly, he said that the reason we weren't able to fight them, the reason that the influence that influenced us to lose our level is the fact that we were connected to Pharaoh. How were we connected to him? We left by his demand. And why did he demand us to leave? Because he got the makot and he was beaten. And he was sad. Vayhi b'shalach paro, and vayhi ela leshon atzvu, that he was sad. Paro was sad, and he sent us, and that sadness got through to us. And he said the same thing, that every time you're connecting with someone, and just to think what level of connection, how far of a connection the nation of Israel versus Pharaoh. Like we were not supposed to take any influence from Pharaoh. But still, since Pharaoh was sad, and the whole movement of us leaving was with him guiding us out with his sad face, that influenced us and did not allow us to go through and fight the Plishtim and go to the land of Israel the short way. And we had to go around. So it's, again, this is something amazing that the Elimelech said that makes us think how much of an influence do the people around us have on us. And I heard something beautiful, that we were supposed to have emunat tzaddikim. We're supposed to have faith in tzaddikim, in the righteous people. But what is the basics of emunat tzaddikim? The first thing you're supposed to believe that you're not a tzaddik, that you need someone else, that you're not good enough on your own, that you need the influence. The Rambam said that a person is influenced in his nature, meaning we as people are influenced by default. We're prone to influence. If we're in a good city, then we're influenced in a good way. If we're in a bad city, vice versa. And it's beautiful. We're speaking lately a lot about Tel Aviv. I forgot to mention, it's very important that the students of the Rav in Tel Aviv have a campaign going. Anyone that has the option to support them, it's a very good cause. But why are we going to Tel Aviv? What is the difference? Because we need the influence to change. One of the most important things that we say about a chassid, that a chassid is supposed to have, if you want to count yourself as a chassid, as someone that follows the Baal Shem Tov and all the Rabbeim after him, as someone that's connected, the first thing about a chassid is that a chassid oseh sviva. A chassid, someone that's a real chassid, makes the environment, influences the environments around him to be different. He makes his surrounding. He's not influenced, but he is the influence. He's the Pharaoh, the smiling one, not the sad one. So this leads us to this week's wonders. In this week's wonders, we're learning a shiur that Rav Ginsburg gave on Erev Shabbos. He was at his house, and the students from Tnuat Rab Chia, which is a youth movement, came to him, and he gave them a review of something very essential thing that we speak about, a ma'amar that Rav Ginsburg spoke about around 16 years ago, that speaks about the people that are supposed to influence us, the influential figures that we're supposed to have, and that sits on a previous ma'amar that Rav Ginsburg wrote in the book of Sinai about Ptichut Izdahut Itkalelut, which that ma'amar explains to us how we're supposed to find tzaddik, how we're supposed to find who we need to connect to. 1 second. One more minute. Sorry about that, very important. So again, we're looking to see how we need to connect to something. And conceptually, the example that Rav Ginsburg gave is how a person's supposed to get married. So there are 3 stages. The first stage is ptichut, being open, meaning many people feel that they don't need someone in their life. Unfortunately, in this generation, we see it a lot in the people that are not close to the Yiddishkeit, to the Jewish way, or even to any ways, and they kind of make their own way. And one of the things they say is, why get married? Why lose your independence? Why being open to other people? Great, I can be around people, but not really open. I need to be myself. I'm not opening myself to other people. Same thing about a person can say about his Rabbi, his Jewish influence. He can say, why do I need to, I can hear everybody, being open to everyone is not necessarily a good thing. I can hear everyone, but I can decide for myself what I want. I don't have to commit to anything. So being open truly, if we remember the Hachnav Dalam Taka, submission is to be open and be willing to commit. I am willing to commit to something. The next step, so again, that's the first step. The first step in finding an influential figure, and finding someone a leader, finding guidance, is being open to look, but also open to commit, open to the process of committing myself to something that's, let's say, smarter, better, etc. What's the next step? The next step is actually finding someone. You have to identify, and you have to both identify the person that you want to connect to, but also feel it within yourself, identify within yourself. You have to feel like this is the right shidduch, this is the right thing. So many times Hasidim, they speak about the first time they connected to the Rebbe. It doesn't necessarily by everyone means the first time they met him. Many times Hasidim were born and they had a different Rebbe, and for many years they knew who's going to be the next Rebbe. They knew him as another person, and all of a sudden they have to connect to him. They have to identify themselves with him. So that's the next step. That's the step of usually that's getting engaged, where you're not married yet, but you made a decision. The decision is there. And what that creates is it creates inability to look anywhere else. We know that young people that are Hasidim, or young people in any kind of connection, they're not willing to hear anything else in the world. They're too involved with what with what they identify themselves with, and that's it. There's nothing else in the world that's worth anything except what they have chosen. But afterwards, what is the next level? What happens when someone gets married? Then they're willing to have an inclusion. They're willing to see everything else, not losing their personal identification, but they're able to go out to the world and connect with other good people without losing their base as a family. As we spoke many times, that having guests is a great thing when you have a good home. But when your home is not doing well, having guests just ruins it. Just like we today and the Arabs in the land of Israel. You have to see that there are stages in accepting other people. And the first stage is to have a good standing identification with yourself, with your land, with your family, with who you are, and then you're able to go out to other people and have an inclusion and listen to all the other tzaddikim. So if we look at the figures, so again, we what we did right now is explain a little bit, and there's a lot to speak about it, but explain a little bit the process of finding a figure that should influence me. Okay, now we're going to the next level of talking about 4 figures that I'm supposed to have. Meaning, not everything. One person can have all these effects on me, but usually, or many times, it could be different people. So what are the 4 figures? We'll say them quickly and then we'll explain. The first one is a Rebbe, to having a Rabbi, having a leader, having someone that I follow. The next is Mashpia, someone that should have good influence on me. We'll speak about it more. And the next one is a tzaddik, which many people confuse a tzaddik and a Rabbi. It goes usually together, but it doesn't necessarily connect to that point of a tzaddik. We'll speak about that more. And Gibor, finally having a hero. So those are my 4 figures. I'm supposed to have a Rabbi, a leader, Mashpia, someone to influence me, a tzaddik, and a Gibor, some hero. So let's try to explain more what do I gain by having each figure. So Rabbi, what he gives me is connection to Hashem. There's a famous machloket between Rabbi Elimelech Milizhensk and Reb Zusha, the 2 brothers. What should we do first? Should a person first feel how low he is, how bad he is, and then try to find Hashem, or the opposite? Should a person first think about how high and holy Hashem is, and then see where he stands with that? And when they brought it to the Maggid from his age, he said that we are first supposed to think of how high Hashem is. So the person that shows us how high Hashem is and that Hashem is special is the Rabbi. Rabbi is the leader of the generation, the person I can see as the one that can tell me that there is Hashem, and that Hashem cares about what goes on in this world, and that Hashem has a plan. All of that is in a Rabbi. He shows me a way to connect to Hashem. The next person, a mashpia, is supposed to be the opposite. A real mashpia is someone that can open me up, that can point me to a direction, that can show me that I'm not whole, that I need something, that what I think I am not. Many times a person feels like he's okay. Overall okay. Yeah, I have different problems, but overall I'm okay. What a mashpia does is he knows how to pinch the balloon, how to figure out, how to show you that you're missing something. And when you have that, then you're able to open yourself to connecting with Hashem, with the Rebbe, like we spoke. So again, two different figures. Not always, or many, many times, the Rebbe is not the one to pinch you, is not the one to tell you. We know that our Lubavitch Rebbe says that every person should have a selech harab, should have his own mashpia, that will be able to put you in your place. Mashpia, out of all the figures, is the one that we always like the most, that it will be a live figure. Many of the other figures, you can connect to someone that passed away, you can read about him in the book, and connect to his way. But mashpia, a good mashpia, many times you go to him and he gives you the right direction. Now, notice that a mashpia does not need to build you back. That could be someone else. We know about the mashpia of Rav Ginsburg. Rav Ginsburg gave the figures that he connected to. We'll say them quickly. His Rebbe is our Lubavitch Rebbe. His mashpia is a righteous, very strong person in Yerushalayim. His name was Reb Usher Freund. Was a special person. And then his tzaddik was the Rebbe in Nadvona. He was in Cleveland, was it? I think it was in Cleveland. And his hero, his gibor, is Rav Moshe Tzvi Segal, his shver, his wife's father. And in the example of Reb Usher Freund, the mashpia that we speak about, he once told someone that asked him, "What should I do?" Okay, you made me understand that I'm not good. What should I do? He says, "I don't know. I took you apart. If you want to find what to do, go down and pray that Hashem shows you the way." But his job was not necessarily to build people. It's to break them. When you're broken, then you have a way, you have a way to look for something. Influence, in order for something to influence you, you need to understand that you don't understand. Many times with children, it's very simple. They feel like they understand. They feel like they're good. And when you're able to break them, then all of a sudden they say, "Okay, now teach me." So the second step doesn't have to go together with the first step. Okay, so those are the first two figures, which if we want to connect them, we connect them to the first letters of Hashem, Yud K. What's the next figure? The next figure is tzaddik. What do we learn from a tzaddik? What do we connect to when we think about a great figure, a figure of a tzaddik? We connect to his love for Torah, the way he sits, the way he learns, his love for Am Yisrael. Many times at one tzaddik, you can see his love for people, his love for Shabbat, his love for Torah, his love for one thing, and many times you can see his love for everything. But what you're connecting to is you're connecting to how a Jew is supposed to live. This is the way. With so much love for Hashem, for Torah, for these things, it's an inspiring figure. And that's what we get from a tzaddik. Many times that tzaddik is the one that guides us to a Rebbe, to a mashpia, etc. But he doesn't need to be the guy He doesn't need to teach me. He just needs to be the figure that I can see it happening, that I can see the love. So that's a tzaddik. And our last figure is a gibor, a hero. If we look at these figures in the worlds, where we say the highest world, the Atzilut, is the Rabbi, and then the Bria is the Mashpia, and Yetzirah is the Tzaddik, the Asiyad, this world, the world that we're in, the world of doing, is the world of heroes. We connect to heroes. Who are our heroes? So we have heroes from Moshe Rabbeinu. How did he start? He got out to the land of Egypt after he was raised. He saw an Egyptian beating up a Jew, and he killed him. He did a heroic thing to help save a Jew, even though it got him into a lot of trouble. And we know about Abraham, how he jumped into the fire. We know about this week we had Nachshon ben Aminadav, who jumped to the sea, right before the sea split. He was the one to do Mesirat Nefesh. Many times the heroism of a person is led, his might is leading towards leadership. And usually the heroes are the ones that we connect to more and allow them to lead us. And their heroism is many times for us to be able to be connected as a nation. Now, a real hero needs to know when to use his might, when to use, meaning someone that just goes out and does what he wants, an anarchist in that way, could be a very dangerous thing. Could be something wrong. We know that azut, and next week we'll speak more about az and az, Bezrat Hashem, but azut, to be bold, is not necessarily a good thing. If someone is not doing the right thing, being bold about it doesn't help me. It hurts very much, meaning many times we look at people that did stupid things and say that they were too much, they had too much azut, they were very bold in a place that they should have been more humble. But a real hero, someone that we want to learn from, all of these figures, mainly the tzaddik and gibor, are figures that we're supposed to follow. Meaning, I can't follow a rabbi because I'm not a rabbi. I'm not a soul from Atzilut, from a very high level that can connect to the things to Hashem in the special way that a rabbi does, and also a mashpia. I mean, he's a guy that's supposed to fix me, but it's not necessarily a figure that I'm supposed to follow. But a tzaddik, someone that I feel is righteous, has love for people, love for Hashem, and a gibor, a hero, someone that I can see doing the right thing, are my examples. They're people that I can connect to and say, that's how I want to be. So now a real hero would know when to switch. For example, the Rabbi Moshe Tzvi Sega, the hero of Rav Ginsburg, in a sense, our hero, his biggest deal that he did was he blew the shofar in the Kotel. The British government did not want to make trouble, so they did not allow Jews to blow shofar. And he went ahead and blew the shofar, and that essentially created the beginning of the revolution to get out of the sanctions that the British governments, together with the Arabs, did for us back then. But what happened was, when the Israeli government took charge, Moshe Tzvi collected all the people, and many people thought we need to continue to fight. The new government is not something we want. It was made on it. To date, we're still suffering from the mistakes made by the new government, mistakes that they thought were the right things. So, but he told them that we don't fight Jews. We are not going to fight Jews with arms. We're still going to have our way. We're still going to be heroes, but not in the same way. And they stopped. They did not continue the rebellion once the Jewish government took charge. So again, these heroes are examples for me how to use the power that a Jew has for creating a nation, creating leadership. Many times, a person that does bold things, like many times we like to speak about soldiers that did heroic things, jump on a grenade, etc. If you would ask them, sometimes Baruch Hashem, they survived. You ask them why they did it. They said that they felt responsible. They felt that there was no other way. I remember one time when I did a business move many years ago, and someone asked me, how can you do it? And I told them, listen, if we would stay small, if we would not take the next level, it would not last. Meaning, you can only be safe to a certain level, and if you need to grow, then that requires the heroism. So I wanted to speak a little bit about these 4 figures. Maybe we'll take questions if anyone has. But this.
What was the difference between Tzaddik and Rabbi?
Okay, so very good question. First of all, we'll say that one figure can be all of it, meaning we can have a person that's my Rabbi, that's my Mashpia, that's my Tzaddik, and my Gibor. And always, a Rabbi is always a Tzaddik, is always righteous. But not always a Tzaddik is a Rabbi, meaning these are all figures that are connected to me, that I'm learning from them. And the way I learn from a Tzaddik is I see his love for Shabbat, for people, etc., and I can learn from him. Not always I'm able to see that in a Rabbi. My Rabbi is always a Tzaddik, but I'm not able to see it, not always. Sometimes I am. We said we can have one person that fills the role of all figures, but many times seeing this love is not always something I see in the Rabbi. The Rabbi, I see leadership, I see connection to Hashem, I see holiness, I see a lot of special things. But seeing this love, the special connection to Shabbat, for example, or to other Jews, is something that many times I see in other figures that are not a Rabbi necessarily, they're not a leader. If you ask them what this generation needs, they wouldn't know. What is my personal goal? They wouldn't know what to say. But what they do know is that they love people, they love the Jews, they love Shabbat, and that I learned from them. So it's 2 separate figures.
So could that be different teachers that we have? Could be like 3 or 4.
Correct. We can have many tzaddikim. At the end of the day, what we spoke about is that all of Jews are tzaddikim. You can learn this from every Jew. When you look at a Jew, you should know that he's a tzaddik. You can learn from him something special. With one Jew, you can learn about truth, his honesty. The other Jew, you can learn about his love. The other one about his devotion, etc. So, ve'amech kulam tzaddikim. But obviously, when we look for figures, we look for someone that's my tzaddik, the tzaddik that I can look up to. So many times I have one figure that I connect to.
So when the Rebbe said that we should have a mashpia, was he talking about all the other 3 rolled in one, or did he mean
The Rebbe was talking about a mashpia.
So only this kind of mashpia that breaks you down.
Exactly, someone that can get through to you.
Before, when you were speaking about Reb Zusha and Reb Elimelech when they went to the Magid, which one represented which?
Very nice. So many times there's confusion, but Rabbi Elimelech always thought about Hashem. He was a tzaddik. He always thought about how high and holy Hashem is, and that's how he thought we should pray. We should always think about Hashem, and by default, we will then think. Once we look at ourselves, once we've so much contemplated on Romemut Hashem, that how holy Hashem is, we would know that we're nothing.
Did you just say Rabbi Elimelech?
Correct. Reb Zusha felt the opposite. You should see how bad is my situation, and then we should say, now we need Hashem. You should see how broken you are, which the Rabbi Magid said that should be the way. The old way, the real way, should be to see how broken you are, and once you're broken, you're able to listen. But since this generation is weaker, we want to, and this is the Rabbi Magid, so our generation, for sure, we want to first look at Hashem. We need to have the connection to Hashem, and then we can possibly consider how difficult we are. But those were the 2 sides of the argument.
That sounds similar to the Rebbe. Always sounds like he only pushes for the one. He doesn't talk about Hachna'ah a lot. And Rebbe Ginsburg talks about Hachna'ah a lot.
That's why the Rebbe wanted you to find a mashpia, because the Rebbe did not want to do it. The Rebbe, and you can see it over many letters. Again, this is my understanding, is that the Rebbe did not want to be a mashpia. Just like the Rebbe would not answer a halachic question, he would send to a local rabbi. So in this case, he's sending to a local mashpia. Many times the Rebbe did it by default, but the Rebbe did not want to be the guy to break you. So that you should find someone in your neighborhood that is a good mashpia. And
Rabbi Ginsburg talks about that a lot. Could Rabbi Ginsburg be talking to a bunch of people who are more interested, therefore they're in a higher level? Whereas Rabbi was speaking to the whole of Klal Yisrael, some of them are not religious.
No, I don't think. No. I think Rabbi Ginsburg is also not normally trying to be a mashpia. He doesn't like to be the person breaking you.
But you hear about Hachna a lot, much more in Rabbi Ginsburg circles.
That's true. That is true. But personally, from my experience, Rabbi Ginsburg doesn't like breaking. He likes for you to go to someone else to break you. But again, some people find all figures within the same Rebbe. I'm sure many Hasidim of all Lubavitch Rebbe found the Rebbe to be all these figures. Definitely a hero and a tzaddik and a mashpia. The Rebbe broke people like there's no tomorrow sometimes, but it doesn't have to be. And the fact that you can split it allows you to find things within people. It allows you to say, "Wow, I love this tzaddik," and understand that as much as I love him, he's not my Rebbe. He's my influence. He's the one when I think of him, I cry. But at the end of the day, he's not my Rebbe. So when you're able to split these four, you're able to learn much more easily from different people. So especially about a hero. Many times our heroes are not great people. Someone that had his moment and did the right thing doesn't mean that he's a person I want to learn anything from, except the fact that he did the right thing at the right time. So very different figure. Sometimes our hero could be a Rabbi. Rabbi did something amazing. He's a hero for me. But sometimes my hero could be someone that's not normally a tzaddik or any other figure, but he did something heroic that makes me want to connect to him on that level and use that as my example that I should follow when I need to be a hero.
Can I ask another question? It seems like Hashem spends a lot of time trying to teach the Mitzrayim, as opposed to the Canaanim who he just destroyed, which seems like he had a lot of faith in them, like maybe they would do teshuvah. Like he spent a huge amount of time. I mean, maybe it was just for our benefit, but could it be that we're supposed to learn from what he did to the Mitzrayim, that we're supposed to apply that to the Goyim and the Noahide laws?
Not necessarily. We have to understand that Mitzrayim, in a sense, was an example, something for us to use. The fact that Hashem treated them in a certain way is for us to learn as we move forward. So it's a good question. It has a couple of angles. First of all, we have to understand that the nations were dissolved. Many years ago, all the nations were dissolved, and today you can see it within, meaning not always, there's not one nation that's Amalek, not one nation that are Egyptians, etc. But also, many times we speak about the famous pasuk, Goy asher b'kirbecha, that within ourselves we have an Egyptian side, other side, etc., and different Goyim. And what Hashem did to Mitzrayim is for us. It's not for them.
But there's a concept that Hashem, that in Chassidus, that whatever happens, it's not only for you, it's for everyone involved. It's the best possible thing that could happen. And if Hashem is so busy torturing them at such great length and speaking to them, then it sounds like there must be in their lessons for not for the Egyptians of today, but for all Goyim. If we want to do the Noahide laws, it seems like he wouldn't spend so much time torturing somebody who's just going to destroy. I mean, maybe he would for our sake, but for their sake, it could be that he wanted them to. It sounds like he wanted them to do teshuvah. Like it sounds quite merciful.
Not as much, especially not Pharaoh. We know that Pharaoh, we didn't want him. Hashem did not want him to do tshuva. It could very well be that
But at
that
the end,
some
he
of
let him
the
live a long time.
it could very well be that some of the neshamot of the Mitzrayim went in a different Gilgul to different things. But again, these are things that I'm not privileged to know.
Thanks.
But conceptually, everything that Hashem did, basically everything that Hashem did was for us. Whether it had a hidden motive to influence certain Egyptians and they replicate themselves in other goyim, that's something very deep that I do not know. But and also it's not necessary for the basic understanding of Yetziat Mitzrayim that we need. We need to see it as something that we need to learn from.
I didn't mean that the actual torture part. I just meant the lessons, like the Hasidic, like the
right. The lesson that we learn from Mitzrayim, we use it in everyday life all the time. Very much everything that happened, including from the Mako to the Kriyat Yamsuf, everything that happened was a lesson for us to learn.
Just seems Hashem is a compassionate God, and he wanted to just destroy somebody. He wouldn't torture them unless there was something in it for them. Like Hashem doesn't just torture people unless
conceptually
there's some reason to torture them in order to make them closer to him. Because if he's just going to destroy them, so it sounds like there must be some kindness in there.
Conceptually, I agree, but sometimes again, but we don't. I mean, I don't know. All right, any other questions? Everyone should have a Shavua Tov, very special week that we get out of Egypt, our own chains that we spoke about before, and break through to a new leadership, the leadership of Mashiach, Bezrat Hashem. Kol Tov.
Amen. Thank you very much.